Well, hello, my good friends. I know it's been a while since I made a video. Went on vacation, went to the Philippines, 8,000 miles away. Had a wonderful time. Been back, been working a lot, trying to get over my jet lag. So I was going to take off on my bike today, on my scooter, and get out there and enjoy the sun and the wind. But it decided to thunder and lightning and rain. So here I am sitting in my man cave, and I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and make a video. I've got the fan on. I've got it blowing on me right now because I don't have air conditioner here in Flagstaff. Really don't need it. It doesn't really get that hot. So I just use a fan when I do need a little fresh air. Anyway, not able to get out on my scooter and take a ride. I don't mind riding in the rain if I happen to get caught in the rain. Of course, I eventually find shelter, but if I'm dry and it's raining outside, I'm not going to go out there and just deliberately get into it. So let's make a video. What can we talk about? There's a million and one things we can talk about. I'm sure that on everybody's mind is this Epstein situation. There's the thunder. Jeffrey Epstein. Who would have ever thought that he would become so famous or infamous as far as the public venue? Of course, he was famous and infamous behind the scenes for many years, and kept everything pretty concealed and private and hidden on his Epstein Island. But now he's the talk of the town. And many people are afraid of that disclosure. I wonder why. So, why would people be afraid of the Epstein full disclosure? Well, first of all, without question, there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of angles, there's a lot of characteristics, there's a lot of things that go and play into a person that was in the business or businesses that he was in. But first and foremost, he's been clearly classified as a pedophile. And this pedophile status apparently exists on the world stage, not just here in the United States of America, but even on the world stage. I'm sure it's discussed. Let me just take us back for a little bit, and you can find the YouTube video. When President Trump was running for the presidency, he was interviewed, and he was asked several questions if he would disclose the 911 issue, if he would disclose JFK. And each time he was asked, he responded with a quick yes, yes. And then he was asked if he would disclose the Epstein issue. He paused just for a minute, and then he said yes. And then he offered more to say about that. I encourage you to go watch that little video. There was a pause, and of course, what he said was true. You know, he talked about there's a lot of things that were possibly true and untrue, and you know there is a definite consideration where those things are concerned. People could be implicated in his pedophile endeavors just because they visited his island, but never engaged in pedophilia, never slept with a young girl. And there could be people implicated in that were totally innocent. But of course, there's also people that were engaging in pedophilia that are rich and powerful people. We know that those names, apparently they don't want to disclose it. It could literally shake up the whole world depending on who those names are attached to. Of course, the worst part, the most disgusting, sickening part of all of this is the young girls that had to be victimized. You wonder how many different ways did he lure them to his island? Money, material things, fun. I'm sure he was a master at appealing to their emotional senses. And then we have to ask the question, what were the backgrounds? What's the history of these girls? Where did they come from? What type of homes were they raised in? What kind of family life did they come out of? What was their mother like? What was their father like? What were their relatives like? There's so many questions that cannot be overlooked in uncovering such a horrific, nightmarish crime such as pedophilia. And then we have to ask the question, how does a man, especially in Epstein's situation, how does a man who has become so wealthy and so recognized, what goes off the rails in his mind? What goes off the rails in his mind as far as the laws of morality, respect, integrity? What sent him off the rails and twisted up his brain cells into wanting to abuse young girls? You have to think about all these things. You know, I've got 4 daughters. 1 son and 4 daughters. And I've always said, and I've always thought, if my daughters were made subject, brought under pressure, lured into the trap of a pedophile. And remember, I was a cop for 20 years. But I've always said, if any of my daughters fell prey to the sickness and the perversion of a pedophile in their young age, they better hope that the cops get to them before I do. Yes, that individual better hope that the cops get to them before I do. You ask the question, what would you do? No, the question is, what wouldn't I do? Now, apparently, some of us live by a different moral code. Because to some, especially the pedophile, there's no conscience of a moral code. There's no conscience of differentiating between consensual sex and luring a young child, baiting a young child to be abused by perverse acts. Apparently, there's no moral code there. There's no conscience that triggers the thought of how perverse that is. But of those of us that have a moral code, a line of distinction, if one of those pedophiles would have abused one of my daughters, what would I do? Do you really want to know? Should I say it on my video? As I said, and I'll say it again, you better hope the cops get to him before I do. What would I do? As I said, the question is, what would I not do? I don't think there's anything that I would not do. Without being graphic, let's just say there's not anything that I would not do. And we'll leave it at that. But why all of a sudden is the Epstein disclosure become so toxic? I mean, you can't help but, your own common sense tells you if they're hesitating of disclosing the issues, why? Of course, we're not interested in seeing a young girl get abused on a video. Of course not. But who's the man? Who are the men? What status do they hold in life? How rich and powerful are they? Is there actual blackmail involved? First, there's a list, an Epstein list of clients. Now, if it evolves into, no, there's no list. First, it was thousands of videos. Then, it was nothing. This flip-flop back and forth creates the problem. Trump, Bondi, all of them have created the problem. Many of us here in the United States, if we the people, we're not stupid. Don't tell us there's one thing and then try to tell us there's not. You either lied before or you're lying now. It's real simple. This is going to either completely destroy Trump's presidency or vindicate him. This is either going to destroy Kash Patel and Dan Bongino's reputation or vindicate them. That's what it comes down to. But we're sick of being lied to. We're sick of the zig and the zag and the shuck and jive of political bullshit. President Trump, J.D. Vance, I really haven't heard much out of him, have we? Bondi, Kash Patel, Don Bongino, you now work for us. You're living off of our tax dollars. Of course, Trump doesn't take a paycheck. But nevertheless, he represents us. He was elected by us, we the people. So you work for us. We don't work for you. You work for us. We do not work for you. They say there's, according to our Constitution, there's 3 branches of power: executive, legislative, and judicial. That's the 3 powers in the government. But there's another power that's greater than the 3 branches of power in the government. It's greater than all those 3. And that's we the people of the United States. We have the power. to completely bring everything to a stop. How? Simply stand up as a nation. Of course, you're not going to get everybody to do it because not everybody has courage, a backbone to do so. But even if, what is there, 350, 360 million here, the people in the United States, if you could get 100 million of us, 150 million to stand together and say, you know what? We're not paying any more taxes. We're not buying your gas. We're not supporting you in any way, shape, or form. We're not paying any more federal income tax, any state income tax. We're not doing anything until you come clean. This thing would come to a screeching halt within a day. But we, the people of the United States, the sovereign citizens of the United States, do not realize how much power we have. And so it's proven that political manipulation, political deception, completely brings people under political slavery. If the government says so, well, that's all we can do. We don't like it, but this is all we can do. Really? The founding fathers didn't think that. They didn't think that way. To old King George, our founding fathers were outlaws, fugitives, felons, rebels. He tried his best to bring them back under his tyrannical rule, to make them slaves again to his ideology. Didn't work. And we better be thankful it didn't work, or we wouldn't be enjoying the freedoms that we are right today. So this may come down before it's all over. This may come down to the reality and the actuality of what the Second Amendment was actually put in there for. After all the grievances are made known to a runaway, perverse, corrupt government, it may come down to the actuality of why our founding fathers placed the Second Amendment right under the freedoms listed in the First Amendment. It was not haphazardly placed there. It wasn't, well, okay, this sounds like a good idea. If you notice, read the First Amendment carefully. Read it very carefully. In fact, let me read it to you. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law. They can have their opinion. They can have their political opinion, but Congress shall make no law. There shall not be a law legislated respecting an establishment of religion. There can be no bias there to say, well, this is the religion that you must subject yourself to. No. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. You have a right, you have a total right to express and to practice your religion, as long as it does not impose on another religion. For example, Sharia law, which is part of a group's religion, they have no right to impose that on a free people. If they want to practice that in their own country, behind their own four walls, that's fine, but not in this country and not amongst the free people. Let's read on. Or abridging the freedom of speech. We have the freedom of speech. Now, once again, if that speech is antithetical to freedom, you don't have that freedom. It's just like the classic example is given. You don't have the freedom to run into a theater or a restaurant and start screaming, "I'll kill every one of you. I'm going to murder every one of you," or "Fire, fire, fire." You don't have the freedom to do that. Now, you might take the freedom to do that, but if you come into a restaurant where I'm sitting, or other patriotic Americans, and you start screaming, "I'm going to kill you," and you're waving a gun around, I'm going to kill you. Just that simple. I'm going to put a bullet right in your skull, right in your face, to protect myself, my family, and those that's sitting in that restaurant. But you can take the freedom, you can take the liberty to run in there, run into a grocery store, run into a Walmart, and start screaming and waving a gun around. "I'm going to kill all of you." You might think you have the freedom to do that, and there's some that do. But if I'm there, I'm going to kill you. It's just that simple. Because my freedom exists to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're trying to destroy it. Innocent people. And why would somebody want to run into a store or a theater or somewhere and yell "fire" when there's no fire? You don't have the freedom to do that. You might exercise the freedom to do that, but that's not a right given to you by the Bill of Rights. Now, if there is a fire, you have absolute right to run in there and yell "fire" and get everybody out of there to save their life. Free speech. Or of the press. The press has freedom to report. But they don't have the freedom. It doesn't say they have the freedom to lie, to connive, to report fake news, as we call it. That's not freedom. That's anarchy. That's trying to destroy somebody. That's antithetical to what freedom is all about. But we see how corrupt the freedom of the press has become. Or, let's see what it says here, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. There it is. We have a right to express our grievances to the government, especially a government that has unharnessed itself from morality, from truth, from the sanctity of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're like a rabid animal. They went crazy. They went totally batshit crazy. That's not a right. That's antithetical to everything that our founding fathers established in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And then all of a sudden, after that First Amendment, we have this highly controversial and hated by many Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary. This is not a suggestion. This is not a frivolous idea. This is not something off the cuff. Being necessary for what? For the security of a free state. How do you keep a state free from government corruption, manipulation, deception? How do you keep a state free? The people are trained to defend themselves. It's not talking about the Army. This is not talking about the Navy. This is not talking about the National Guard. This is we, the people. Because the founding fathers wrote these things based off of their own experience with tyranny. Based off of their own experiences with tyranny. And they knew by experience, by personal experience, when they expressed grievances to King George and listed all those things that he was doing that was against the laws of nature, nature's God, when they exposed his tyrannical rule and his lies and his deception, what old king do? He came after him. And what did our founding fathers do? Like it or not, this nation was made free at the end of a gun. At the end of the barrel of a gun, it was made free. Negotiations no longer worked. Debates, good ideas, no longer was effective. It took the violence by using a gun and an act of violence to protect and establish freedom. They said it was necessary for the security of a free state. And then it sums it up. It sums up the well-regulated militia. It sums up the necessary tools to secure a free state. It sums it up in this last sentence. The right of the people, not the Army, not the Navy, not the Marines, not some governmental military power. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's not a suggestion. That's not a personal entitlement. That's a right given to us by the laws of nature and nature's God. We have a right to defend ourselves against evil, against tyrants, against despots, against anyone, foreign and domestic, that would try to destroy our lives, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness in the context of the laws of nature and nature's God, in the context of a moral code, in the context of integrity, in the context of responsibility and accountability. So, back to this Epstein debacle, this Epstein dilemma. Why the hesitancy? I know they keep using the excuse, well, we don't want innocent people to be exposed and hurt and make it worse than what it is. That's easy to take care of. All we want are the names of the rich and powerful who are guilty of engaging in perverse acts with young girls. That's all we want. Who are they? It's not hard to find out. Who are they? Let me repeat that. I don't want to know the names of the young girls. I want to see them get help if they need it. Because many of them are adults now. We don't even know how many have committed suicide, do we? Do we really know that? We don't know how many lives have been totally wrecked and destroyed, who are suffering day after day after day. But we do want to know who are those rich and powerful men that took advantage of Epstein's nightmare. Who are they? Trump, who are they? Bondi, who are they? Bongino, who are they? Patel, who are they? Get off your asses. Who are they? It's not easy. It's not easy to disclose something like that. I understand. It's going to affect a lot of people in high places. But who are they? Till next time, God bless.